Welcome to the Abyssinian Syllabary, where we spell out Ethiopia in 33 characters. I'm Yves-Marie Stranger, your host and the compiler of these Abyssinian lives. Nota bene, while any resemblance to actual countries, past or present, and to historical figures is not purely coincidental, this is a work of fiction. For a primer on these Ethiopian characters, newcomers may start with the Prologue by Manuel de Guèz. To order the book or a poster of the Abyssinian Syllabary, visit Ethiopia.com. That's UTHIOPIA.com. The world is a library in which one should at times pick out a volume with the utmost care, while at other times it is just as imperative to pluck a book out with abandon, said Zer Jacob. Knowing when each of these occurrences presents itself is the hallmark of true wisdom. The Apocrypha of Zer Jacob. Luis Dureta. Luis was born in a Minorcan port that traded in olives and fished for sardines. Catalan was the tongue that he spoke as an infant, but he rejected the language, as he found it too guttural. Luis accrued Castilian and some French of the Occitan dialect, as well as Fez Arabic and the lingo that Hispania Jews call Hebrew, and others Ladino. The child was passionate about stories. From early on, Luis began to tell tales to the seashells he dotted about the tiles of the kitchen. He excelled in recounting the story of the world since the creation, up to and including the flood, which he enacted by spilling the sweet waters the servants had fetched from the village well. After each flood, and after the beatings, Luis would resume his world-making anew. His father traded in the cloth of lateen sails. His mother was the eldest daughter of a priest from Alghero. As they did not know what to make of their off-centre boy, and her father being on good terms with priestly friends, they sent him away to the monastery of the Black Virgin of Montserrat, in the hills above Barcelona. Here Luis felt at ease. He gained some Latin, some proper French, as well as a smattering of Italian, of the Neapolitan basilect. Luis excelled in his studies, so he was shorn and made a monk at a tender age. He spent his days poring over the Apocrypha in the monastery's scriptorium. These Apocrypha seemed to him much like the tales he used to tell the seashells on the kitchen floor. Luis was sent away from Montserrat after being caught scratching out lines that did not seem lively enough in some incunabula, while at the same time filling in the colour that had seemed so lacking. On his way to Valencia, Luis fell into step with a Franciscan with an uproarious laugh, who himself loved a good yarn. The grey-beard answered to Marc Bonhomme. He was a Frenchman harking from Metz, and he declared to have been of a papal embassy to King John the Prester in Abyssinia. Mark had darting eyes underlined by deep slits, the scars of the cuttings made by the Ethiop doctors to heal his conjunctivitis. And how clear-eyed he now was! Mark Goodfellow depicted the lofty palaces, the gold and the silver. He extolled the unicorn herds that bowed in reverence when the Prester moved about his kingdoms, and many more prodigies. This Prester travelled on a crystal chariot, drawn by elephants shod in hippo leather, fastened to their legs by cords plaited from the feathers of the bird roc. And Mark, who had seen all this after the doctors of the Prester had cured his rheumy eyes, added many more veridical specifics that astounded Luis. Having arrived in Serrabonna, Mark the Good died anon, clasping Luis's hand on his bed of agony, and imparting to him that he had not told him all this to no avail. Luis understood and picked up his quill. He wrote and he wrote, while he still could bring back to the mirror of his mind the hall stacked with gold to the eaves, the Prester's men of war, how they marshalled these troops, and whether they took prisoners or not. The keystone of the fabrication of words that Luis built from vellum was the library of Mount Abora. In this library were shelved all the world's known volumes in a collection begun in the times of the King Solomon. And we all well know, added Luis, that Solomon already had in his privy book chambers all of the books in existence since the flood of the beginning of times. Luis did not stop here. He provided exact dates and the locations of battles. He gave as an example the fall of Tyre, a recent well-known calamity. At the downfall of this city, the Prester had sent emissaries to purchase and hence preserve rare volumes which, for being written in illegible ciphers, were of no value to the city's new masters. Luis gives us the roll call of Mark's companions in the papal embassy, the leave-taking dates of the mission, the stations of their perambulations, and an exhaustive account of the events that transpired in the Prester's fabulous lands. When he flaunts the quantities of gold, vast halls are stuffed to the rafters with the ingots, Luis gives very similar details on the various methods used. The Abyssinians have pans, they dig underground, they plunge sheepskins into winterbournes. Luis calculates, using the length and width in feet of these halls, the exact quantities of the metal the Prester has stashed away. Luis Dureta, of facile pen, shapes his tower of skin and ink in long years spent in the semi-darkness of the dictatorium. There is nothing he affections more than scraping a parchment, then beginning once more, with more specifics. When Luis puts down his quill for the last time, he is a mere 57 years of age. Although he suffers from the premises of arthritis in his knotted fingers, his countenance resembles a supple Treviso parchment. Luis is not aware that he is to pass in his sleep that night, scuffing about the aisles of the Biblioteca of Mount Abora in his dreams. Neither will Luis know that whole books will be penned in appalled response to his own. The History of Ethiopia by Pero Paez, the History of Ethiopia by Mendes, etc., etc. Nor will he ever know that his contrivances will reverberate in poems such as Kubla Khan or in tales like Dr. Johnson's Rasselas. One recognizes successful authors in the footnotes that follow in their stead.